Okay, so this is me and Dusty, and today we decided to work on mounting block stuff. Dusty's getting ready. He's kind of becoming a big boy. He's ready to be have his first ride and be ridden. And as you can see, he's pretty big, and I really need the help of a mounting block. Of course, I teach the mounting block to every horse just because I like them to be comfortable with me above them before I get on. But with Dusty, I really don't know if I can get on without stirrups or a mounting block. So I'm planning on getting on him bareback for the first time, just laying over his back. So we're going to make sure the mounting block is at least working before we move on to the next thing. And so here I'm just reviewing him stepping on the mats. As you can see, he's not perfect with it yet. He still wants to try and step around the mat a little bit. He's getting 1 foot on instead of 2 feet on consistently. And he's questioning what he should do with his foot when it's on the mat. Should he pivot around it? Should he put it there for a second and then move it? So I'm just reviewing a little bit of that before I bring the mounting block out. And he didn't get it perfect. I'm not worried about that. I take the mounting block and I'm just saying, okay, let's see what you do with this. Are you curious about it? I've definitely had this out before and stood up on it near him, but not in a really formal way, just sort of us playing around. And as you can see, all that playing around has led to him being pretty confident, even with me being up there on the mounting block for the first official training session with it. And so oftentimes I'm just doing other things with him and I step up there, but I don't really try and train anything. So here I'm putting the mat in front of the block to help guide his position near the block. And this is really handy once your horse gets really good with the mat. And as you can see, he's not very good with the mat yet, but it still is helpful. And so I'm jackpot clicking him right now and making sure that he understands, yes, you standing here is what I want. And then I can go and I can adjust the mounting block if I need to. And right here, I'm just putting 1 foot on to say, this means stay there. You can stay in your spot as I move this direction, because he's very apt to follow me when I go places, which I love, and I don't want to change that. But in this context, I'd like him to stand still. So with him, I'm able to move pretty quickly. With your horse, you may only get to the first step and just a little bit of movement of your weight before moving on to the next step. But because I've done a little bit of just hopping on and off of this and knowing that he's not worried about me above him, I moved up to the third step pretty quickly. And right there, as I got onto his back, I reached over so he could see me in the other eye. And that's a pretty important thing to do, just to make sure they're not worried about that other eye. We went off camera for a minute and then reset here. And as you can see, he's like, oh, I think I understand that when you're up there, it's pretty good, but he's not sure where to place his feet just yet. So he's pretty far away from the mat, which is going to line his back up to where I need it. And there are a lot of different ways that you can teach the mounting block. This is just one way. You can also teach it just by guiding their head with a halter and lead rope or with a target, or you can even, if your horse is comfortable with just gentle taps with a whip, you can teach them to move their hip towards you, or you can even teach them to target their hip and move their hip toward you. So there's plenty of different ways to do this. This is just one possibility. And for him, it's working pretty well so far. So even though his feet aren't placed perfectly on the mat, he's getting in the position that I want. And he's getting the exposure to me leaning over his back. And so now he said, oh, I really like this mat and I'd like to stay here. So judge where you are with your horse and what they need. With a different horse, I might take a very different approach, but for him, this is working out really well. So notice we've been on his right side this whole time. So I reset up our station so that he could line up with his left side to me. So once I've lined him up on the other side, I'm going to go back and I'm going to review everything that we did before. So he's clearly a little confused as I'm moving around him here. He said, oh, do you want me to move my hips? And I like that he's offering things, but I'm just reassuring him that staying still is the correct thing. So I'm reinforcing him heavily there, saying, yes, it's stay still as I do this. And we're going back to 1 step, then 2 step, and then just barely getting to the 3rd step here. And so just like anything else, you're going to do the same thing on both sides and make sure it's good from both directions. And this is allowing him to see me out of both eyes and with my body leaning on one side versus the other, and the weight distribution is a little bit different. So, and it's also letting me see what he's more comfortable with. Some horses have a preference for one side or the other. And I don't try and change that too much, but I do make sure that it is good on both sides and they can just have a preferred side. We set up again, and we're probably just going to do one more rep here. I can't remember how long we went, but I want him to be comfortable with me moving around him, leaning on him. And here you can see I'm jumping and just putting my weight a little bit on his withers. I've grabbed a little bit of his mane and I'm pulling up just to see what he does. And if you were to be worried about that, I would definitely decrease the movement and what I'm doing there. But he was not concerned at all, so we moved on. Okay, so we've set up again, and it's the same side. We're on the left side again, and we're just going to go through the motions and see where he is. And you don't have to stay in this until it's perfect. One thing that I like is to work in tangent with a lot of different behaviors, because horses really do well if you're working on something just for a few minutes at a time and then you move on to something else. So you can do a jackpot in between those activities, or you can just take a break, go take a walk, do something in between each of these things. For this session, we kept it really short and simple. We said, okay, awesome. You feel good about me being up there. Let's go do other things. And we called it there.